So I've been thinking about doing a series of videos that are like books that have to do with elements like water, earth, wind, fire. So this one's gonna be horror from the seas, or by the seas, or maybe by the lake. Basically, they're water-based horror books that I really enjoyed. So today we're gonna talk about 6 books that are by the sea or near the water, that either have creatures in the water or take place nearby it, and that's a major elemental part of the story. So the first one is Our Wives Under the Sea. This is a story about Miri and Leah. And Leah works as, I think it might be a marine biologist and whatnot, or something along those lines, where she spends a lot of time underwater on submarines exploring the sea and learning about stuff and whatnot. And the last time she goes, her and her crew go down really deep, and they're only supposed to be gone for a really short period of time, but it ends up being much longer, and Mary's like trying to find out what's happening, what's going on, no one's telling her something, and then like weeks and weeks later, Leah finally returns. Only Leah is not the same person that Mary married. It's so strange, and it shows like the emotional balance of the relationship before and after, and just the love between them. And it was such a beautiful, emotional story. It's got that underwater environment that I oh so love, and it was really good. So the next one is Lure by Tim McGregor, and this is an indie horror. You might call it like a folk horror kind of story. It's about this little fishing village, and they're kind of isolated from everywhere else. After this huge storm, a god comes into their bay that they find and see swimming around, and it's a mermaid. And they're like, holy crap. And the men, they're all stupid and let's go kill it, without even learning about it, without even taking a second. And the women are just, what is this beautiful creature? And they're captivated by her. And so it's a story of what happens when the men go off and try to kill it, and that's gonna rain damnation down on their heads, and it's not gonna go so well. And it was a great horror story. I loved it. Tim McGregor is a fantastic author. I would highly recommend Lure if you like folk horror. It's a short novella and just a really fun read. So the next one, this one's more of a like by the sea and something that came from the sea, and that is The Devil's Pocketbook by Ross Jeffrey. This couple have lost their child. It's Eric and Laura. They're just going through their grief and pain, and the grief is so like tactile and just intense, and you can feel it in their souls as it rips them apart. And so they want to get away from the town that they live in because, they keep running into people who don't know that their baby died, and they have to deal with that. So they're like, let's get away. Let's try to regroup. Let's try to find us again, like as a relationship. So they go on vacation to the seaside town, and they find this pod in the sea, mermaid's purse or a devil's pocketbook, one might say, and in it is a child, and this child seems to miraculously come into their life. But we all know this is not going to go well because it's a horror book. So let's be honest. And it was so good. I love the story. It's another folk horror story, and it was absolutely great. And the way that Ross Jeffrey portrays grief was just really sadly beautiful and eloquent. Also an indie horror. The next one is The House at the Bottom of the Lake by Josh Malerman. And yes, I know it's not by the sea, but this one takes place in a lake, in a body of water. It's called The House at the Bottom of a Lake. There's this teenager couple, they're a new couple. For an afternoon, they decide to go canoeing on this little lake area. And as they find this house at the bottom of a lake. They're like, what is that doing down there? Why is that there? Does anybody know about it? And they decide that they're going to go in there and explore it. Well, this house might just turn out to be haunted. So it's a story that's underwater, and it's in a lake, and it's weird and strange. And if you like Josh Malerman, I'm sure you'll like this book as well. The next one is From Below by Darcy Coates. And this one I read very recently, and it is about, there was this ship called the Arcadia that sunk years and years ago, and it had disappeared and no one had seen it, and it's been like, I think 100 years. And so this crew is assembled, and they're going to be the ones who see it for the first time in like 100 years. And they're going to go down there, try to figure out why it sunk, what happened, because they find it like, I think it's like 300 miles off course of where it was supposed to be going, and this, that, and the other. And when it sunk, there was these SOS calls that had like people saying, they're in the walls, what was in the walls? Well, you find out if you read the book, because what was in the walls is still there. It's terrifying, it's claustrophobic, it's atmospheric, and it's such a great read. And if you like Darcy Coates, this is the third book I've read by her. I feel like I rave about her all the time. She's such an awesome author. Her horror is scary, but not overly scary. I feel like it's never like too intense, so it's like a nice maybe gateway horror. Maybe not this one. This one's very claustrophobic, but I don't know. From Below is awesome. You like really visualize and feel it as they're going through this ship and how claustrophobic it is and getting turned around and trapped, and when stuff starts happening, it's wild and it's great. Then my absolute favorite horror by the sea is The Fisherman by John Langan. This is one of my favorite books of last year. It has like a Lovecraftian type horror vibe to it. This is another book that has a very heavy theme of grief and loss through it, and it's about this fisherman whose wife passes away from cancer, and he, when he loses her, is just torn apart by grief, and the only thing that is able to like lift him back out of this is he starts fishing. And it doesn't make him happy or anything, it's just something to do, and that pretty much just like saves his life, because you know he was drinking all the time and just like going on a really bad road, and that lifts him out of it. You never fully are able to, you know, get rid of the grief, but as the time goes by, having something like fishing really helped him. A coworker that he works with ends up losing his wife as well, and so he starts going fishing with this guy because this guy has also just experienced this horrible loss. And then one day they hear about this fishing spot, this mysterious creek called Dutchman's Creek, that maybe, just maybe, there's rumors that the ones they lost, they might find again. The way the story goes, and it goes between how that creek was kind of formed and what happened in the history of that area. Like there used to be this town and there's this reservoir that is above the town that used to be there, and like the weird, strange history and all this like kind of like occultish stuff that happened and whatnot. And it's such a great book. And as I've said, I have a standalone video for this one. I'll link that down below. I actually have standalone videos for most of these books, so I'll link those down below as well. And if you're interested in any of them, I will have links to check those out. Those are affiliate links, which is a great way to support the channel and to support indie bookstores as well. The Fisherman, I think one day could be like a modern classic. It's just awesome, phenomenally written, and a beautiful book. So if you're a fan of horror books, the next video coming up will be about something scary. So stick around, check it out. And if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.